Yeah, hey everybody, this is Ian from mindfulmarketplace.com. And today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to share a simple PDF that I just uploaded to our private community. If you're interested in joining that, you can get that link in the description box below. But essentially, uh, these are some questions, only 9 of them. I curated these down a little bit for simplicity, but that I find are pretty universal in terms of their ability to offer some clarity and some inspiration and some focus, and they pretty much cut across my entire audience of clients and readers and all that stuff, right? So those of you who are building like communities or marketplaces or authority site style businesses, this applies. And those of you who are part of our newish community who are writing books and teaching courses and selling coaching or consulting, which is where we are focused as a community going forward, I think you'll also find some benefit from these simple questions that you can refer to ensure that you're staying on message. All right, you can actually also answer these within the form itself at this URL, and you can download these if you're part of our community, just by logging in and downloading it. All right, so here are the questions. And again, these are, really good for entrepreneurial ADD. Many of us are kind of looking in multiple places and spaces simultaneously when fierce focus and finite focus are actually much more advantageous to your brand and business. All right. So, number one, what would make this easy? Right. I mean, the idea of, you know, so many of us complicate these projects and platforms to the point of making them so challenging to actually implement and execute that they never actually get off the ground. So simplify what would make this easy, right? Any idea that you can envision, strip away all the superfluous, kind of extra fancy pants BS, and you'll find there's an easy way of implementing and testing an MVP or minimal viable product launch that really can transform your brand in a hurry. All right, what could make this or what would make this fun? I think that so many of us forget that, life is short and we're kind of in this to enjoy ourselves, not to, perpetually be, pounding our heads against the wall in the service of some sort of entrepreneurial ambition. So, I often find myself not having fun in my own business because I'm too serious and I'm doing things that aren't necessarily adding joy to my life. And I think that for me, joy is a very important part of my personality and my day to day interactions. And when I excise that, when I remove that from my work, which is most of what I do all day, life becomes more challenging. So what would make this fun, right? There's almost always something that you can find within what you're doing that would add a fun or enjoyable or even humorous kind of element to your work. As a matter of fact, just as a quick side note, something I shared again in our community a while back was, creating and doing email outreach, just experimenting with like completely zany, eccentric, odd, openings and saying things that were kind of weird, in emails. And, it's fun for me to do that. And I've also found that people respond better when you do that, right? Some people unsubscribe or tell you not to email them again if it's a cold email, but in large part, you get a more, you get the people that you want. If that's part of your ethos, in your approach to business, you're going to get more people who are inclined to also be fun, right? To be around, and who doesn't want more fun in their, client community? All right. Again, this is kind of the same idea, but what can you clip, snip, cull, or cut out to simplify? And feature creep, right? It's something we all need to avoid. Minimum viable, maximum viable, right? What can I remove that won't affect the outcome, but will delay my launch or is slowing me down right now? Whenever I ask myself that question, I can almost always, especially when I'm working on a project with lots of other people that I'm trying to convince, I'm smarter or I know all these like new technologies or tools or softwares, that are going to like make us stand out, right? I often find that slows everything down and it's needlessly complex, right? So what can you just remove that doesn't, that's not going to affect your outcome right now, but by dint of removing it, it will actually expedite the process of getting you to market fast or getting your idea tested in the marketplace where it needs to be to succeed. All right, what could go right? And again, this is sounds like an obvious thing, but I often find that people I'm working with never ask this question, like what actually could go right? Like what would life look like? Get super clear and visualize what life looks like if a simple idea goes right. Like what does your life look like? Like if the passion project that you've actually, you know, spent all of this time trying to conceptualize and execute and blah blah blah. What does it look like in your life in 3 months, in 6 months? Like if everything goes kind of right, doesn't have to go perfectly, but just things go well. What does your life look like, right? I find that answering that question, it dovetails with all the stuff above, and it sort of motivates me to simplify, to really get focused and actually get stuff published. All right, where's the win? Right? Begin with the win, both for yourself and for your readers, your clients, your students, your community, whatever it is that you're building. Right? Knowing what the win looks like, having some sort of like tangible sense of what that actually looks like, and then reverse engineer everything, your content, your course, your coaching, your community, to ensure that you're delivering that. And for me, in our current platform where we're working with lots of authors, you want people to understand the win looks like they have a published book in the world, right? They have readers, they have people sharing reviews about their book on Amazon, on Facebook, and their friends and their family are proud and impressed. And, all that stuff, if you can do what's called future pace your ideal audience or your client to the place where they can actually, feel that win in a sort of, in a visceral sense, that is a really it's a powerful exercise both for you and for being able to use that in your copy and in the persuasive parts of your platform. All right, where is your mountain? Map it and mark your momentum. All right, this comes down to this interview I saw years ago with Neil Gaiman, I believe it's pronounced, who's a prolific author, and he said something along the lines of, and I paraphrase this because I don't have the exact quote, but he said something like, I visualize my finished book not as a goal, but as a mountain in the distance, and I keep my eye on it at all times. When I'm doing the work that moves me closer to the mountain, I know I'm on the right path. When I'm doing work that moves me away from the mountain or keeps me stuck in place, I know I'm on the wrong track and I reconfigure my compass and get back on the trail. And essentially, this is so important to me. Again, with this sort of entrepreneurial ADD, you can find all these sort of sexy distractions in the world, that a new tool, a new piece of software, a new service, a new person to follow, a new, gimmick to game, whatever, but it's all moving you away from your mountain. And your mountain is this tangible place in the future, or that you can see in the world, that you need take a certain path to get there, and anything that moves you off that path is something to be avoided, right? If I'm not mindful that there even is a mountain, it's easy for me to get distracted and sort of get into this loop of planning, aiming, planning, aiming, planning, and then never actually executing, which is what we're all in this business to do. All right, what has historically distracted you? I mean, in my case, I'm, Wolf Blitzer shouting "breaking now" from the TV in the other room, which I've learned the hard way is usually news that isn't really breaking now. Blah, blah, blah. This is sort of a jokey kind of thing, but it's true for me, like having news on in the background, having TV, having my phone on where I'm getting texts and phone calls, those sorts of things are distractions for me, right? Um, and there's many more, right? But for me, understanding what has knocked me off my game or off my goals, what contributes to procrastination, what triggers me, being on Twitter, Facebook, those sorts of social networks really are historical distractions for me. I actually quit Facebook altogether back in July. I'm recording this in late September of 2020. So that's been a really, really helpful thing for me. But being mindful of where you've been tripped up in the past, especially when it comes to a side hustle sort of business, can really be amazingly illuminating and instructive for not making the same mistakes again right now, right? So avoid the rabbit hole, right? Have a finite focus and try to stay away from bright and shiny objects and people, I would add, because almost always they are destined to disappoint. Um, Number 8, I mean, this is really powerful for me, and I think this will be powerful for you as well if your thinking mind is similar to mine. Like I know many people in my community share this sort of mindset, but what will this cost me? Like what not doing, what I'm meant to do, will cost me later, right? And I'm not a particularly religious person, which I actually covered a little bit in number 9 as well. But I do believe that, not sharing my gifts and not showing up in the world in a way that empowers me, inspires me, and allows me to really do what I do best. When I picture my 80-year-old self, when I write that letter or envision myself at the end of my life, and I know that I haven't lived the life that I was capable of living in terms of service and contribution and helping other people, inspiring other people, and sharing my natural gifts, I know that that would be hugely tragic to me. So, and I know that my future self sheds a tear when I envision myself just fucking away or just goofing off, and wasting the time when I'm in my prime, which is right now. Right. So, keeping an eye on, I mean, there are lots of different sort of like hacks for this. And, there's a really great Buddhist approach to this, where it's called the mindfulness of death. And, there is this idea that every day, these, monks or practitioners will write down these phrases that remind them that, this is not a permanent thing and every day matters. And sacrificing your, your best moments, which for me are right now, and hopefully for you are right now, in the service of being distracted or wasting time or you know like there's a real cost that when you get really mindful of that idea and you really get the sobering truth that this is the moment right now, and if you're not actually optimizing it and taking advantage of it and really immersing yourself in sharing what you do best with the world, there's a real cost that you will pay down the road, and that motivates me. Hopefully, I know I didn't say that quite well, but hopefully it motivates you as well. All right, and number 9, what does the universe want to do through you? All right, and I heard a talk years ago where Eckhart Tolle said this, and it's sort of a play on the President Kennedy speech, but I really do love this question, and it's not because I'm a believer in all things New Age, or even necessarily that I believe that the universe knows me personally at all, right? But rather, I do know that we all have our unique gifts and talents and abilities and unique life experiences that can help heal, shape, serve, and truly offer hope and transformation to those who need it, right? And asking myself, like, what have I touched, tasted, or done that others need to know that can help them high step the hurdles or overcome obstacles or glean an inspirational insight that only truly I can offer by dint of my own unique, life experiences and history. And, many people that I've bumped up against, especially in the recent past with the book writing community that we have and the author and teacher and coach community, people feel like they've made so many mistakes that they can't yet, they're not yet qualified to help other people. And what I like to say, and again, I don't know who said this. I think it might have been Robin Roberts from the Today Show. But your mess can be your message, right? I mean, wherever you've fallen or failed, your frailties, your phobias, your fears, these can all be amazing instruments of service in the world. You can light a lamp for others to show how to avoid the potholes or the pitfalls, and that can really be quite um, you know, helpful to those who need your words, your wisdom, and your work the most, right? In the spirit of service, these things can only uniquely be shared through the lens of your life and your own experiences. I mean, like we each have our own journey, our own path, and that is can be quite illuminating to others, especially if you come if you've made mistakes or you feel like you've screwed up or, fallen and failed and, all those things. I mean, reaching out and serving somebody with a message that helps them avoid that same path can be quite helpful. At least it is for me. I've screwed up quite a bit. I've made lots of mistakes. And rather than, focusing on regrets, I try to actually use those errors in the service of helping others avoid them. Okay, so again, those are 9 questions. I call them empowering questions. There's lots more that actually I just didn't want to, cover here because there's just too many to cover in a video like this. But I'm going to keep adding these to our community. You can download these. Within in a PDF form. You can also, if you want to interact with these yourself, you can actually fill out these form or these questions. Each have a form that's interactive. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. Hope this has been helpful and have a wonderful day.